This is part one of a two-part deep dive into one of Gordon Lightfoot's songs. The second part of this episode will be released at a later date. I hope you enjoy the conversation between me and my guest. Thank you in advance for listening.
The first guest of the evening is truly a poet. He's an artist. He is a friend and an inspiration to anyone who has ever played the guitar or tried to write poetry. Would you please welcome Gordon Lightfoot?
This is Carefree Highway Revisited, the show that celebrates the work of Gordon Lightfoot song by song, with all episodes available for free at www.lightfootpodcast.com. I'm your host, Mike Messner, and with me today is a fellow Lightfoot fan and another artist who is making a living at doing a tribute to Gordon Lightfoot. His name is Ward Cornforth, and I'm glad to have him with me. So tell me, Ward, did you ever get to see Lightfoot in concert, and what was that like for you?
Yeah, I only got to see him live in 2013 at Massey Hall with his full band. It was a great show, and I don't know why I waited till then to go see him, but I knew that he'd played consecutive days every year in November at Massey Hall. I guess it's kind of something I got into a little bit later in my life in terms of really liking him. So yeah, it's hard to explain that, but I definitely heard him on the radio forever. So when I go back through his catalog, I remember hearing all these songs on the radio. I knew all of his songs pretty much. For me, mainly hearing them in the 1970s. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned having seen him at Massey Hall, and I think some people around Toronto say that Massey Hall is the house that Gord built. Did you feel like there was a real aura about the place, given the fact that he has such an affiliation with Massey Hall? Yeah,
it was a pretty special night. I think he played a few nights when I saw him that week. I mean, I've gone back and heard recordings of him back in the 1960s where he's performing just live recordings at Massey Hall, and they just sound unbelievable. He's so strong vocally back then when he was young. His voice was fading a little bit with these shows, but being a musician, I really appreciated. And he came across quite strong. I'm sure he was in his mid-70s at that point. It was a fabulous show. And I did notice that they had cameras videotaping the show. I think it was in part for that documentary that came out on television. I think they took a bit of footage from the concert that I was at, which was kind of exciting.
Now, you are if not the leader, certainly one of the members of Gord's Gold. Can you tell me, and that the way I understand it, that is a tribute band in effect. Can you give me a little bit of background on how that band got started?
Yeah, sure. I think just a few years ago, I met with the guitar player that plays in another tribute band I have, which is a Johnny Cash tribute.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a little while.
Yeah, and I asked him if he wanted to start a Gordon Lightfoot tribute. And he said yes. So we got together all winter and ran over the material together, and he helped me a lot. And I worked on it all winter and kind of gave up all my other activities, which I usually play hockey and things, but really focused on it. And then we came out in the spring and we had some shows last year with it. And now we're continuing this year and it's starting to grow and build. That's how it got started, timing wise. The interest in it, it just kind of came to me that there's only a few things I can sing, and I can do Gord in my vocal range fairly well. I'm a lower voice than he is, but over the winter, I got myself very close to his range, and with a lot of practice, I'm kind of in his range now. But he's got an incredible vocal, as you know, like he's trained very well. He's just a spectacular singer. So for me, it's a challenge, and I'm quite happy with the progress I've made, but I have more strength in the lower register, and I worked on my higher register to kind of get close to where he is. But I'm more of a baritone bass, and he's more of a baritone.
Let's talk a little bit about the other members of the band. And if I remember correctly, there are 4 guys in the group. Can you say a little bit about them and what their connection is to Lightfoot? If they're just fans, then that's certainly enough. Were they fans when the tribute band started? Have they become fans since?
They're all definitely fans of Gordon Lightfoot, lifetime fans. John Zaslow, the lead guitar player, he actually mentioned that he'd seen Gord, I think, at Western in London University in the 60s with his original trio. So that was incredible to hear that. John's in his mid-70s. He's in the band. He's a fabulous guitar player. He tours with Ian Thomas. Is that right? He just got off a tour with him. So he's joined me. And Don Reed, the drummer from Collingwood, he's been in several Lightfoot tribute. And his friend Doug Eyre is the bass player as well, who's also a big Lightfoot fan as well. And Don actually has been in a tribute that's toured across Canada. It was a Lightfoot show. It was a little bit different kind of a show, but he actually had the drummer from Lightfoot's band come out and attend the show, and he complimented Don on his drumming. So that was kind of a feather in his cap.
Wow. So Barry Keane actually gave him some kudos then.
Yes. And that's a funny thing because Gordon Lightfoot was a jazz drummer, and I'm a jazz drummer as well. So we have that common as a background. But I studied from Barry Keane's drum book when I was taking drum lessons as a kid. So we know about Barry Keane. He's a legendary drummer.
Fantastic. You said that you're a bass baritone, and that's kind of my vocal range also. But as a singer, what is it about Lightfoot songwriting that resonates with you most just as a vocalist or a musician?
It's just incredible songs. And the more research I've done is just the amount of work he put into writing the songs. He'd spend like full days just working on parts of a song. It's incredible. Like, he's got to be one of the best songwriters of all time. And I think that's backed up by Bob Dylan and many other people. I mean, when we started going through the catalog, it's incredible. I haven't even heard most of his stuff. Like, that's how much stuff he's done, like songs he's recorded. It's kind of hard to comprehend how good he was. Really, it's kind of very humbling to be able to do this music. I'm doing the best that I can, and I've got some great musicians performing with me. And we're getting a very good response, which is good for me to see that, because we've just started out with a few shows here and there, and we're just sort of building it slowly.
I think you just did a couple of shows this past week, did you not?
Mm-hmm. We performed in Guelph at the Guelph Little Theatre for the second time. We performed last year. Yeah, we got a standing ovation at the end of the show for an encore, which was quite something. And I also meet with the people after the show and talk to them to get feedback, and just getting really good feedback. They really like our show. We're just four guys, right? We're not a full orchestra or anything like that. We don't have the keyboards in there, but we're more like the original Lightfoot just before he got the keyboard player. And we may be adding the steel guitar player. That'll be the next thing into the band. I think that will be our version of the show. It will be Pee Wee Charles that will be adding that part. There's a show in Chicago. He's on TV, and it's a fabulous recording in a studio performing. And it's a different sound with the steel guitar. I really liked it. And the keyboards I like too. I think that's kind of where we're going to be.
Is there one Lightfoot lyric that hits you personally or hits John personally every time you or he sings it?
Well, his favorite song is our opening song, which is Did She Mention My Name?
Oh, great choice.
We both love that song. But the one that hits me the hardest is If Children Had Wings. Wow, what a song that is. We don't do it on our show yet, but it's just so powerful. Like, it's talking about his marriage breakdown. And it's actually a song written for his kids, was the song that he wrote. But boy, that one really hits me hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think any parent would probably have much the same reaction. And as I see my son getting older, he's about to graduate and go off to university. I can kind of relate to that. And I'm sure most of the parents of kids can also.
My son's in the same spot as yours. He's going to university in another year.
It's bittersweet. Now, let's talk about the repertoire that the band does a little bit. You said the first song is Did She Mention My Name, which is obviously a standard and one of his most successful songs. Does the band tend to do deep cuts, or is it more like the very popular songs that everybody knows and that everybody kind of expected that Gord would do if he himself were there?
It's interesting because compared to his concerts, he didn't cover all of his popular songs. He had a lot of things that were not the top hits in his show, I noticed when I saw him. But we definitely do cover all of the hits that hit the radio and the songs that people would most likely expect. But we're missing some too. You know, people after the show were pointing that out to me. And I said, how do we include them all? Because I said, you could have 3 different shows, I think, you know, with the amount of songs that there are. Yeah, we do a lot off the Gord's Gold albums, which are the greatest hits, I guess, per se. And then we were doing a few that aren't on those records because we like them, like You Are What I Am. It's a bit of a bluegrass kind of a feel. So I put a few in like that I liked personally, but I remember hearing them all on the radio because I wouldn't know them otherwise. But I think that was even on the radio, that song, for a period of time. It's a bit of both, but we do the studio recordings. Like, we're not changing the versions of the song. So it's bar for bar, just like the record.
Lightfoot was a trained singer. He sang in a choir as a boy, and I don't know if he had any formal vocal training as a young man, but it wouldn't surprise me. He does have a very distinct tone and a very distinctive way of phrasing his songs and the few covers that he's done of other people's songs. It seems to me that it would be a very fine line between trying to capture his style without just mimicking him. You're listening to Carefree Highway Revisited. We'll be right back after a word from a podcast partner or two.
250 and Counting is the podcast that walks you through American history one day at a time.
I'm Mike Messner.
I'm Claude Call.
Join us as we spend just a couple of minutes with you
each day,
telling you about the events that took place exactly 250 years ago on that date.
You'll learn more about the big events
and the small events
that led to American independence.
Look for 250 and Counting in your favorite podcast software.
That's 250 and Counting from Acroasis Media.
Sandro, look!
Yes, Zach? Wait, what's that thing you're holding up?
It's a time travel device. We can use it to go back to the past and watch movies.
But we already do that on our podcast, Oldie But a Goodie.
No, on previous episodes we were pretending to time travel. Now we can do it for real.
Cool, so we can really go back to like the 80s or the 90s?
No, Sandro, you're thinking too little. I mean, we could go really far back, like we travel back over 100 years into the past.
Oh, but Zach, that's so far in the past. Those movies would be old.
Yeah, but, well, a show is called Oldie But a Goodie, so we should probably do old movies.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's right, folks. This year on Oldie But a Goodie, we're going back further than ever before.
Wait, who are you talking to?
We're starting in 1920s, doing one movie from that year, and then moving up to 1921. And we're continuing that until the year 1969.
Nice.
Join our time-traveling journey through cinema by subscribing now to Oldie But a Goodie, out wherever you get your podcasts.
That's Not Canon Productions podcast.
And I'm wondering if you want to comment on that, what your experience is of trying to be true to his style of singing without just mimicking him.
Yeah, I'm definitely not mimicking him. I'm using my own voice to the best that I can. And I do the same thing with the Johnny Cash show that I'm in. I don't sound like Johnny Cash, but people walk away from the show saying he sounds just like Johnny Cash. Because I think a lot of times the audience fills in the blank. I guess mainly for me, I'm delivering the energy of the song. That's coming across to the audiences. We're quite pumped up about it all. I get very excited singing this stuff. It's very exciting to sing, very enjoyable. And that comes across to the audience as far as our performance. So yeah, I would say that my timing of the singing will be right on the money because I know the songs inside and out in terms of the timing of the words and the notes. And I'll sound a little different than Gord, but as I do it more and more, you start to get closer and closer to exactly the way he phrased things and that. So it's kind of a fun thing to work at too. But yeah, there's some that I Rainy Day People's right in my wheelhouse. We've worked really hard at Canadian Railroad Trilogy, and ours is mainly a tribute to the songs. People are not going to hear someone that sounds just like Gord and Lightfoot, but I do it as close as I can. And the thing is, our Johnny Cash tribute show is the same thing. I've seen people try to mimic him style-wise and that, but I find that has a limited lifespan, and people only want to see that once if you sound just like somebody. But ours is more about the show. It's about the songs, the energy, and in addition to singing the material, I talk about facts about the songs. Like, this was a #1 hit single, and this is what happened when it came out. The band had to start hiring Learjets to get around the country. So I give them a lot of information about the history of Gord, and that's what I do in the Johnny Cash show too. I give statistics, little stories, facts. Yeah, so that's kind of how our show is different. We don't just run the songs. There's a little bit of chatter about them as well, just a little bit.
It sounds like you're doing exactly what a tribute band should do, is to be a tribute to the artist and not necessarily trying to duplicate him, because let's face it, no one's going to be as much of a master of his own songs as Gord was when he was around.
That's the thing I had to come to terms with doing the Johnny Cash show as well, is that you have to do it your own way, and you have to take ownership doing it your own way too. And I think that comes across to the audience. Mimicking someone is really difficult, hard to comprehend that. Nice. It's nice when you do sound reasonably close to Gord. I mean, my voice is in the range, and I guess as a drummer, one thing that's good is the timing of the way he sings, and him being a drummer as well. He's quite rhythmic in his playing, his guitar playing, and also his singing's on the beat. It's not slurred and off the beat. So it's fairly easy to follow, I think, once you start listening to it a lot.
Yeah, he does have, now that you mention it, he really does have an excellent sense of rhythm. And I usually get that when I'm listening to him playing his 12-string. I hadn't noticed it in his vocals, but when he's doing records, you'd think that he'd be able to do takes until it was just right. But I'm sure that he had enough of a sense of rhythm that the vocals didn't need a whole lot of retakes.
Yeah, I don't think they did. I think you're right, especially when you listen to his live in Reno concert, which is quite spectacular. He's fabulous. He's just great person to be able to sing tribute for. I'm lucky because, like I said, there's not a lot of people in my range that I can sing, and I had to stretch it and work on it all winter to get to Gord's range.
Well, that brings me to my next question, Ward, and that is there a particular song that's really challenging for you to sing, either musically because it's right at the very top of your range, or because it is just so evocative that it brings up stuff that you either tear up or you have to catch your breath or something like that?
I was playing Pussy Willow's Cattails to a girl the other day, and she started crying. She started thinking about what it was about. She realized it was about life's transitions over time. That's how she interpreted it. But in that song, when he hits the word spring, it's very high. And that's where he has a ton of power in his upper baritone range. And that was a real challenge to hit for me. I'm able to do it now, but that's kind of the peak of my range. It's quite a high note he hits, and he hits it with so much power. He's a fabulous singer. I don't know how many people realize how great a singer he was. I mean, his voice is spectacular. And the dynamics, oh man, it's incredible.
The song of his that I'm working on right now is The Last Time I Saw Her Face. That brings me to the same place you are, to realize, okay, the man really had pipes. And the fact that he could sing his own work, and it's a beautiful song no matter what. Glenn Campbell has done it. Other people have done marvelous jobs of it. But when you think about how he supports the melody in everything that he's done, there's very, very few vocal performances where I just think, oh man, you could have done better. And it may also answer the question I always had. He didn't have a whole lot of guest vocalists on his records. There were very, very few times that I know of where he wasn't overdubbing his own vocals. And that may have been just a testament to the confidence he had in his own singing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, the recordings are pretty bare bones. He's carrying it. And then in his concerts, he's carrying it as well without any backing vocals, throughout his career, pretty much. He sang the songs just with himself. On the records, there are some big backing vocals on some of the tunes. And luckily, I've got this band, and every single person in the band is a strong singer. So we've got some great harmonies happening at times, which are from the records.
Yeah, I sometimes wish that he had done more duets or sung with other people, and that those things had made it onto records. But the vocal quality and everything he did was so good that that's more of a why as opposed to why didn't you, if that kind of question makes any sense.
Totally, yeah.
Let's talk about the reception that you guys get. And I know that you've just done a couple of shows at Guelph. So I'm wondering, who is at the concerts? Are we talking about people who are our age and older, people who grew up literally with Lightfoot in the 60s and the 70s? Or are there also younger people who are discovering his music for the first time? What's the demographics that you're playing to?
I think actually a bit of both is what you're saying. And I think what it is the families will bring out the kids that are younger to join them. We played it last summer up here in the Marsh Street Center on an outdoor patio. We had 150 people come out. They had to expand the patio. And I looked around and there were kids, there were teenagers, there were young adults, there were people of all ages. I think that's the thing. My dad and I both followed the music, and it's multi-generational, Gord and Lightfoot. It's my father's age group, it's my age group, and now it's people that are younger too. Quite a range. And we see that at the Johnny Cash shows as well. But I think the Johnny Cash, maybe a bit older crowd on top of that because he got started in the 50s, but it's hard to say.
Well, I think it's wonderful. It gives me hope that for both of those artists, because they're incomparable, and that you have kids that are, for whatever reason, whether they're being taken there by older family folks or they're trying to come by themselves. I think the fact that they're still staying in touch with the music is extraordinarily refreshing. And I think it means that his legacy is going to go on for a long time. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. There are probably some songs of his that you've sung dozens of times in the context of the band, and maybe before, but certainly in the context of the band. Do you ever find yourself discovering new meanings in stuff of Gord's that you've sung over and over again, and then all of a sudden you think, wow, I'd never thought about the song this particular way?
Yeah, I actually had to look at his liner notes on the box set, which was the songbook that he released, and he talks about the meaning of what a lot of the songs were that he wrote, and I had no idea what a lot of them were about. It was very interesting. Yeah, and he had a good sense of humor too. You could read that in his liner notes. Sometimes it's a simple thought, like, yeah, he's driving down the highway and there's a hitchhiker on the road, and that's one of his songs that he got the inspiration for. It's just amazing.
My next question to you is something that I'm just now kind of experiencing, because although I can do a passable job in the original keys that Gord played in, occasionally I will find myself needing to capo up or capo down when I'm accompanying myself on guitar, just so that I can actually deliver it. So the reason I'm prefacing it like that is that I want to know, how closely do your arrangements in Gord's Gold, how closely do they follow the original recordings? Do you ever change the key for your own vocal deliveries? Do you ever make any other kinds of changes like that? Or is it pretty much, nope, this is the way he played it, this is the way it sounds on the record, this is the way we're going to do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, I actually have gotten within about a tone of Gord's voice. So like I said, I'm lower. So we only drop by one tone at the most. Sometimes it's a semitone, and then there's ones that are right in my wheelhouse, and I've got my vocal range right into his key. So there's not much of a noticeable difference in our show, but we definitely do that. And that's important because you have to have strength when you're singing Gord's songs. To do it in his actual key without strength is no good. And to do it without good intonation is no good either, because he is so good. And that was the biggest challenge for me. Is like, I'm not a trained singer. I sing professionally as a Johnny Cash tribute artist. I've gotten pretty good, but I'm actually trained as a drummer. But I'm an all-round musician, so I have a very good ear. And just from training, I basically, as over the years, I've got professional guys playing with me. But I know enough that the intonation is the key thing. And there's people that claim that they're Gordon Lightfoot tribute artists, but when I listen to them live, first thing I notice is their intonation is off. And to me, that's just unacceptable. I mean, if you're going to do him, you've got to be properly in tune on everything, because he was right in tune. So that's just my personal preference, my number one priority. That's why we do adjust the keys. Not very much, but we do it. But other than that, we're pretty true to the chords and the sound of the songs from the record, but not identical, because I'm not a finger-picking guitar player. My lead guitar player does Gord's parts a lot, and I just do some strumming. We're a bit of a unique sound in that sense, but I think when we add the steel guitar, we're going to be, like I said, the original Lightfoot band. So yeah, we're a little bit different. That's a great question, actually. But overall, we're definitely singing and playing the recordings, that's for sure, like off the radio records.
That wraps up the first part of this episode of Carefree Highway Revisited. The second part of this discussion will be released very soon. I hope you enjoyed this conversation so far, and that you'll listen to the second part when it comes out. See you next time.